At that moment, nobody knew that Harrison Reed's perfect family man image was built on lies, and I was about to bring it all crashing down. Hi, I'm Kiera Washington, and I'm about to tell you a story that will make you question everything you think you know about powerful men, their hidden prejudices, and the dangerous games they play with women's hearts. But the most shocking part was yet to come. Let me start from the beginning. 2 years ago, I was 26 years old with the Georgetown MBA and a dream job as senior marketing director at Reed & Associates, one of Chicago's most prestigious consulting firms. Fourth-generation family business, old money, the kind of company where handshake deals still happened over $50,000 bottles of whiskey. I thought I was living the dream. Corner office, six-figure salary, respect from my colleagues. But what I didn't know was that I was walking into a carefully orchestrated trap. But there was something I didn't know yet. For men like Harrison Reed, successful black women were just exotic prizes to be collected. Harrison Reed was everything you'd imagine from old Chicago money. 43 years old, silver at his temples, the kind of confidence that comes from never being told no in your entire life. His family had built Chicago alongside the Palmers and the McCormicks. Reed & Associates wasn't just his company, it was his legacy, his birthright, his kingdom. And I was about to become his best-kept secret. I first noticed Harrison during my second week at the company. Not because he noticed me. He was the CEO, and I was just another employee. But because of how everyone else acted around him, the way conversations stopped when he entered a room, the way grown men with decades of experience suddenly acted like nervous schoolboys. That power was intoxicating, even from a distance. My first real interaction with Harrison happened 3 months into my job. I was working late on a campaign for our biggest client, Morrison Industries, when I heard footsteps in the hallway. It was past 9 p.m., and I thought I was alone in the building. "Someone's dedicated," came a voice from my doorway. I looked up to see Harrison Reed himself leaning against my doorframe in that casual way powerful men do when they want to seem approachable. That sparkle in Harrison's eyes at that moment, I didn't know what it meant yet. "Just trying to make sure we exceed expectations, Mr. Reed," I replied, not looking away from my computer screen. "Harrison," he corrected, walking into my office uninvited, "and what we're doing for Morrison is impressive work. Your strategy for their Q4 launch is brilliant." I felt a flush of pride. The CEO knew my work, knew it was mine specifically. In a company where credit often flowed upward to whoever had the most seniority, this felt significant. "Thank you. I've been studying their market penetration patterns for months." Harrison perched on the edge of my desk, closer than was professionally appropriate. "You know, most people your age would be at happy hour right now, not buried in market analysis." "Most people my age don't have student loans that could buy a house," I replied before I could stop myself. He laughed, genuinely laughed, and I felt something shift in the room's energy. "I like that. Honesty. It's rare in this business." He paused, studying me with those piercing blue eyes. "Have you eaten dinner?" Right at this point, everything changed. "I was planning to grab something when I finished this presentation. There's an excellent sushi place that delivers. Why don't I order for both of us? Consider it a working dinner. I'd like to hear more about your ideas for the Morrison account." It seemed innocent enough, professional, but there was something in his tone, something in the way he was looking at me that made my pulse quicken. That night, we talked for 3 hours about business, about strategy, about my vision for modernizing Reed & Associates' approach to digital marketing. Harrison was brilliant, asking insightful questions, challenging my assumptions in ways that made me think deeper. But more than that, he made me feel heard. In a company full of men who often talked over women in meetings, Harrison hung on every word I said. "You have a fascinating perspective, Kiera," he said as we finished the last of the California rolls. "I've never met anyone who thinks about consumer psychology the way you do." "You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet." Over the next month, these working dinners became a regular occurrence. Always professional, always about business, but there was an undercurrent of something more. The way Harrison's hand would brush mine when he handed me documents. The way he'd stand just a little too close when looking over my shoulder at my computer screen. "You're incredibly talented," he told me one evening as we reviewed quarterly reports. "I hope you know that." "Thank you. I've worked hard to get where I am." "It shows. You remind me of myself when I was your age. Hungry, driven, willing to do whatever it takes to succeed." But Harrison's real intentions behind those words were something I wouldn't understand for months. The shift from professional to personal happened gradually, so subtly that I almost didn't notice it at first. Harrison started asking about my life outside work, my family, my dreams, my relationships. "Are you seeing anyone?" he asked one night, the question seeming to come out of nowhere. "Not seriously," I replied, suddenly very aware of how alone we were in the office. "Good," he said, and the way he said it made my breath catch. "I mean, good for your career. Relationships can be distracting when you're trying to build something meaningful." That should have been a red flag, but I was too caught up in the attention to see it clearly. "Wait a minute. Don't miss this detail." 2 weeks later, Harrison invited me to a client dinner at one of Chicago's most exclusive restaurants. "I need someone sharp to help me close this deal," he explained. "Your insights into their target demographic could be crucial." The dinner was at Alinea, the kind of place where a meal costs more than most people's monthly rent. I wore my best dress, a black cocktail dress that I'd bought for special occasions but had never had a reason to wear. Harrison's reaction when he saw me told me everything I needed to know about his real intentions. "You look," he paused, his eyes traveling over me in a way that made my skin tingle. "Absolutely stunning." The client dinner was a success, but I barely remembered the business conversation. All I could focus on was the way Harrison kept finding excuses to touch me. A hand on my back as we walked into the restaurant, fingers brushing mine as he passed me documents, the way he leaned in close to whisper comments about the clients. After the clients left, Harrison and I found ourselves alone at the bar. "You were incredible tonight," his voice lower than usual. "I couldn't have closed that deal without you. It was a team effort." "No, Kira, it was all you." He moved closer, his hand finding mine on the bar. "You're extraordinary. Do you know that?" But what I didn't know was that Harrison's charm offensive was just the beginning. That night, Harrison walked me to my car in the restaurant's parking garage. The air between us was electric, charged with possibility and danger. "Kira," he said softly, stopping beside my car. "I need to tell you something." "What?" "I haven't been able to stop thinking about you, about tonight, about us." Before I could respond, he kissed me. It was soft, tentative at first, then deeper when I didn't pull away. When we finally broke apart, I was breathless. "Harrison, I don't think we should." "No," he said, his forehead resting against mine. "I know it's complicated, but I can't pretend I don't feel this connection between us." That word, complicated, should have made me ask more questions, but I was lost in the romance of it all. The fantasy of being chosen by someone so powerful, so out of my league. "What you're seeing now is nothing." The next 6 months were like living in a fairy tale. Harrison and I began what he called a discreet relationship. We couldn't be public about it because of company policy, he explained. People wouldn't understand. There would be accusations of favoritism, questions about my qualifications. I don't want anyone diminishing what you've accomplished. Your success has nothing to do with us. I want to protect that. It sounded noble, protective even. What I didn't realize was that it was the beginning of his campaign to keep me hidden. Our relationship had all the trappings of romance. Expensive gifts that arrived at my apartment with handwritten notes. Weekend trips to his cabin in Wisconsin, where we'd spend hours talking about our dreams and future plans. Private dinners at restaurants in neighborhoods where we were unlikely to run into anyone from work. "You're unlike any woman I've ever met," Harrison would tell me during these intimate dinners. "Most women in my circles are predictable. You're brilliant, ambitious, real." That phrase, "in my circles," was another red flag I should have cocked. Harrison was attentive in ways I'd never experienced. He remembered everything I told him, from my favorite flowers to my coffee order, to my dreams of eventually starting my own consulting firm. He'd surprise me with thoughtful gestures, first edition books by authors I'd mentioned loving, reservations at new restaurants I'd said I wanted to try. But Derek's real intentions behind those words were something I wouldn't understand for months. "Tell me about your family," he said one night as we lay in bed at his downtown penthouse. I told him about my parents, my mother, a teacher in Detroit, my father, a mechanic who'd worked 2 jobs to put me through college, about my grandmother, who'd raised me every summer and taught me that education was the key to freedom. "That's beautiful," Harrison said, his fingers tracing patterns on my bare shoulder. "You've overcome so much to get where you are." There was that word again, overcome, like my background was an obstacle rather than a source of strength. I wouldn't say I've overcome anything. My family gave me everything I needed to succeed. "Of course," he said quickly. "I just mean, coming from where you came from to working at Reed & Associates, it's impressive." Where I came from. The way he said it made my skin crawl, but I pushed the feeling aside. At that moment, she would see what came through her door, though she didn't know it yet. Month 7 was when the first cracks in Harrison's perfect facade began to show. It started with small comments, observations that seemed innocent but left me feeling unsettled. We were at his penthouse getting ready for another private dinner when his phone buzzed with a text message. His expression changed as he read it, becoming tense and irritated. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Just family stuff," he said dismissively. My parents are having another one of their dinner parties next weekend. Command performance for all the Reed offspring." The way he hesitated before saying parents stuck with me, though I couldn't pinpoint why. "That sounds nice. Big family gatherings can be fun." Harrison laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Not these gatherings. Very formal, very traditional, very homogeneous." Homogeneous? Old families, old money, old ideas about how things should be done. He looked at me in the mirror as he adjusted his tie. "Not your scene, trust me." "How do you know what my scene is?" "I just mean, these people are very set in their ways, very judgmental about outsiders. I wouldn't want to subject you to that kind of environment." Outsiders. Like I was some kind of intruder in his world. "I think I can handle judgmental rich people, Harrison." His hands stilled on his tie, and for a moment, I saw something cold flash in his eyes. "I'm sure you could, but why put yourself through that? These aren't your people, Kara." Your people? My people? Like we existed in completely separate universes that shouldn't intersect. That night at dinner, I brought it up again. I'd like to meet your family sometime. Harrison nearly choked on his wine. Why would you want to do that? Because they're important to you. Because after 7 months together, it seems like a natural progression. Kira, honey, my family is complicated. They have very specific expectations about the people in my life. You won't believe this, but Harrison was about to reveal the depth of his deception. What kind of expectations? Harrison set down his wine glass and reached across the table to take my hand. Look, I care about you deeply, more than I've ever cared about anyone. But my family, they're from a different generation. They have old-fashioned ideas about compatibility. Compatibility? They believe in people staying within their own social circles, economic backgrounds, cultural contexts. I felt my stomach drop. You mean they're racist? I wouldn't use that word. They're just traditional, set in their ways. Harrison, if your family has a problem with me because I'm black, then they're racist. And if you're making excuses for them, then you're complicit. His grip on my hand tightened. It's not that simple, Kira. These relationships, these social dynamics, they've been in place for generations. I can't just wave a magic wand and change centuries of tradition. I'm not asking you to change centuries of tradition. I'm asking you to stand up for the woman you claim to care about. Harrison's expression softened, and he brought my hand to his lips. I do care about you, more than you know, but I also have to be realistic about what's possible. What's possible? Like flooding me with some kind of impossible dream. By month 8, Harrison's excuses were becoming more frequent and more elaborate. Every family event, every company party, every social gathering in his circle was somehow not the right time or not the right crowd for me to meet his people. I don't want you to be uncomfortable, he'd say when I asked why I wasn't invited to Reed and Associates' annual gala. These events are very stuffy, very boring. You'd hate it. But I knew the truth. He was ashamed of me. Ashamed of being seen with me in front of his peers, his family, his social circle. The breaking point came on a Saturday morning in month 9. I was at Harrison's penthouse, making coffee while he showered, when his phone rang. The caller ID read, Victoria. Without thinking, I answered. Harrison Reed's phone. There was a pause, then a woman's voice, crisp and patrician. I'm sorry, who is this? This is Kara. I work with Harrison. He's in the shower. Can I take a message? Another pause, longer this time. Please tell Harrison that Victoria called about the children's school schedule. He has Emma's recital on Thursday and James's soccer game on Saturday. The line went dead, but the words echoed in my head. Victoria. Children? Emma? James? When she read that document, everything would change. When Harrison came out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, I was sitting on his bed with his phone in my hands. Who's Victoria? I asked quietly. Harrison froze, water droplets still clinging to his chest. What? Victoria called about the children's school schedule, Emma's recital on Thursday and James's soccer game on Saturday. What you're seeing now is nothing compared to what was coming. I stood up, pacing to the window, trying to process what I just learned. 15 years. You've been married for 15 years and you never thought to mention it? It's complicated, Kira. It's not complicated, Harrison. It's called lying. I didn't lie, I didn't tell you everything about my situation. Your situation? Your wife is a situation? Harrison stood up, reaching for his clothes. Victoria and I, we don't have a real marriage anymore. We're together for the kids, for appearances. We live completely separate lives. Separate lives? She's calling you about school events and soccer games. That's just logistics, co-parenting. There's nothing romantic between us anymore. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet. I laughed bitterly. Nothing romantic. Harrison, you've been lying to me for 9 months about the most basic fact of your existence. You're married. You have a family, a life that I'm not part of and apparently never will be. That's not true, isn't it? All those family events I couldn't attend, all those social functions where I wasn't welcomed, it wasn't because your family wouldn't accept me, it's because your wife would be there. Harrison pulled on his shirt, his movements jerky and agitated. Kiara, please, let me explain the whole situation. What's to explain? You've been using me as your side piece for 9 months while playing happy family man with your wife and kids. It's not like that. Then what is it like, Harrison? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been living a double life and I'm the dirty secret you keep hidden in your penthouse. Harrison's face hardened. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic? I just found out the man I've been sleeping with for 9 months has a whole ass family he never bothered to mention. How exactly should I be reacting? There was only one decision moment, and Kiara's reaction would change everything. Look, Harrison said, his voice taking on that patronizing tone I'd heard him use with difficult clients. I understand you're upset, but you have to understand my position. I have responsibilities, obligations that go beyond just what I want personally. What you want personally? Is that all I am to you? A personal want? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Harrison sat back down on the bed, running his hands through his hair. I have a life, a very public life, with expectations and standards that I have to maintain. Standards. My family, my company, my social position, they all come with certain requirements. I stared at him, finally seeing him clearly for the first time since we'd met. Requirements that don't include being publicly associated with a black woman. It's not about race. It's not? Then what's it about, Harrison? Why can't I meet your family? Why can't I attend company events as your date? Why have you been hiding me for 9 months? That sparkle in Harrison's eyes, it was too late now, but I was about to learn exactly what kind of man I'd been dealing with. Harrison stood up, pacing to his window that overlooked the Chicago skyline. You wouldn't understand. You didn't grow up in this world. This world? Old money, established families, social hierarchies that have been in place for generations. There are expectations, traditions, ways of doing things that outsiders don't comprehend. Outsiders. I don't mean it as an insult. I just mean people from different backgrounds, different social strata. It's not about better or worse. It's about fit. What would you have done? Can you imagine the anger and betrayal in that moment? Fit. Like I don't fit in your world. You're brilliant, Kiara. You're successful, accomplished, beautiful. But my world, it's very insular, very traditional. People like my family, they stick with their own kind. Their own kind? People from similar backgrounds, similar social circles, similar... He trailed off, but I knew what he wasn't saying. Similar skin color. Harrison turned from the window, his expression pained. I wish it weren't true, but yes. My family, my social circle, they're not progressive. They have very specific ideas about appropriate relationships. And I'm not appropriate for them? No. For me personally, you're perfect. You're everything I could want in a woman. But I can't just think about what I want. I have to think about my children, my company, my family's reputation. At this point, everything changed. So I'm perfect for sleeping with, but not perfect for actually being with publicly. That's not fair. It's completely fair, Harrison. You've been using me as your secret mistress while maintaining your respectable family image. You get to have your exciting, exotic fling with the smart black girl while keeping your real life completely separate? Harrison's face flushed. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. Tell me, Harrison, how many other women like me have there been? How many other ambitious, successful black women have you kept as secrets while playing the perfect family man? The look that flashed across Harrison's face told me everything I needed to know. There have been others. A few. How many is a few? Kira, that's not relevant. How many, Harrison? He sat down heavily in his leather chair. Over the years? 3, maybe 4. When the phone rang, her life would change, though she didn't know the call was coming from Harrison's wife. All black women? Mostly. Mostly. I felt sick. You have a type. It's not what you think. What is it then? Explain to me what it is, because from where I'm standing, it looks like you have a pattern of using successful black women as your personal entertainment while keeping your real life lily white. Harrison's face flushed. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. Tell me, Harrison, how many other women like me have there been? How many other ambitious, successful black women have you kept as secrets while playing the perfect family man? Harrison's shoulders sagged. What do you want to know? Everything. How long have you really been married? Do you love her? Does she know about your little hobby of collecting black mistresses? We've been married 15 years. We have 2 children together, and no, she doesn't know about my relationships outside our marriage. Relationships, plural. Past relationships. But she knew about the others? The other black women you've been with? Harrison was quiet for a long moment. Victoria and we have an understanding. You won't believe this, but Harrison was about to reveal the true depth of his deception. What kind of understanding? She knows I have needs that she can't fulfill. As long as I'm discreet, as long as it doesn't affect our public image or our children, she looks the other way. I stared at him in disbelief. She knows you cheat on her with black women specifically? She knows I have relationships outside our marriage. The specifics? We don't discuss the specifics. But she knows your type. Harrison looked uncomfortable. Victoria is a very pragmatic woman. She understands that marriages like ours are more about partnership than passion. She gets security, social status, financial stability. I get freedom to explore other aspects of my personality. Other aspects of your personality, like your fetish for black women. It's not a fetish. What would you call it then? I'm attracted to intelligence, ambition, strength, qualities that black women seem to possess in abundance. You've had to fight for everything you've achieved. That creates a kind of intensity that I find irresistible. What you're seeing now is nothing compared to what was still to come. So you're attracted to our struggle, our pain, the obstacles we've had to overcome. That's what turns you on? That's not how I would put it. How would you put it? Harrison walked back to the window, his reflection showing a man who looked older than his years. I would say that I'm attracted to women who've proven themselves in a world that wasn't designed for them. Women who've had to be twice as good to get half the recognition. That kind of strength, that kind of determination, it's incredibly attractive and incredibly temporary. What do you mean? I mean that you're attracted to our strength, our ambition, our intelligence, but you're not willing to actually incorporate us into your real life. We're good enough to sleep with, good enough to wine and dine in private, but not good enough to take home to meet the family? It's not about being good enough. It's exactly about being good enough. You just said it yourself. Your family has specific ideas about appropriate relationships, and I'm not appropriate. Harrison turned from the window, his expression pleading. Kira, I wish things were different. I wish I could change centuries of family tradition, social expectations, the way the world works. But I can't. You're not trying to change anything, Harrison. You're perfectly happy with the way things are. You get to have your exciting black girlfriend in private while maintaining your respectable white family in public. You get the best of both worlds without having to sacrifice anything. There was only one decision moment, and Harrison's next words would seal his fate. Maybe that's true, Harrison said quietly. Maybe I have been selfish, but I can't change who I am, where I come from, what's expected of me. What's expected of you? To marry within my social circle, to maintain the family reputation, to pass on our traditions to the next generation. Traditions that don't include people like me? No, they don't. The honesty was brutal, but it was also clarifying. So, where does that leave us? I don't know. I do. I started gathering my things from around his bedroom. Clothes I'd left over the months, books, personal items that had accumulated as our relationship deepened. It leaves us nowhere because I'm not willing to be your dirty little secret anymore. Kira, wait. We can figure something out. Maybe I can talk to my family, help them understand. Understand what? That you've been cheating on your wife or black woman for 9 months? That you've been lying to both of us this entire time? I haven't been lying to you. You've been lying by omission every single day for 9 months. Every time you said you weren't ready for a serious relationship, every time you made excuses about why I couldn't meet your friends or attend your events, every time you talked about our future together while knowing you'd never leave your wife. Harrison sat down on the bed, looking defeated. I never promised I would leave Victoria. You promised me a relationship. You talked about building something together. You made me believe that what we had was real. It is real. My feelings for you are completely real, but not real enough to actually change your life for me. I can't destroy my children's family for a relationship that might not work out. Might not work out. Like what we'd built over 9 months was just a trial run. There it is, I said, zipping up the overnight bag I'd packed with my belongings. The truth. I'm not worth the risk. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. Your wife is worth staying with because she's safe, appropriate, expected. I'm worth sleeping with because I'm exciting, exotic, different. But I'm not worth actually choosing. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. I walked toward the door, then stopped. One more question, Harrison. What? If I were white, would this conversation be happening? Harrison was quiet for a long moment. Too long. I don't know. Yes, you do. If I were a successful white woman from a good family, you would have introduced me to your parents months ago. You would have taken me to company events. You might have even left your wife by now. Kira. But because I'm black, because I don't fit your family's idea of appropriate, I get to be the secret, the temporary excitement, the woman you fuck in private but could never marry in public. Harrison flinched at my language, but didn't deny it. Have a good life, Harrison, with your appropriate wife and your appropriate children in your appropriate white world. I left his penthouse that morning knowing I'd never go back. When they thought it was over, Harrison wasn't done trying to control the narrative. But Harrison Reed wasn't the kind of man who let women walk away from him on their own terms. Over the next week, he called me 17 times, left voicemails that alternated between apologetic and manipulative. Kira, please call me back. We can work this out. I know you're upset, but you're not thinking clearly. What we have is too good to throw away over a misunderstanding. You're being emotional about this. Can we please discuss it rationally? I didn't return his calls. Then he started showing up at my apartment. Flowers, gifts, handwritten letters slipped under my door. All variations on the same theme. He was sorry, he wanted to make it work. Couldn't I please just give him another chance? The letters became increasingly desperate, and then increasingly angry. I've given you everything. I've treated you better than any man ever has. You're throwing away the best relationship you'll ever have because of your pride. You're not thinking about what's best for your career. Reed and Associates is your future. Don't let emotions ruin what we've built professionally. That last letter was a threat, barely disguised as concern for my career. What they saw when the door opened would change everything. 2 weeks after our breakup, I was working late again when I heard familiar footsteps in the hallway. This time, I wasn't surprised to see Harrison in my doorway, but I was surprised by who was with him. Kira, Harrison said, his voice strained. I'd like you to meet my wife, Victoria. The woman standing beside him was everything I'd expected and nothing I'd prepared for. Tall, blonde, elegant in that effortless way that comes from a lifetime of privilege. But there was intelligence in her eyes, and something else, something that looked like understanding. Hello, Kira, Victoria said, her voice warm despite the circumstances. I've heard so much about you. I stood up from my desk, unsure of what was happening. Mrs. Reed, please call me Victoria, and please sit. We need to talk. Harrison looked uncomfortable, like this wasn't going according to whatever plan he'd had. I'm not sure what Harrison told you, I began. He told me everything, about your relationship, about the lies he's been telling you, about his pattern of behavior with women like you. Women like me. But the way Victoria said it didn't sound dismissive or racist. It sounded sympathetic. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet. Kira, maybe we should... Harrison started.
No, Harrison, you've done enough talking. It's time for some truth. Victoria turned back to me, her expression serious but timed. Kira, I want you to know that I don't blame you for what happened. You didn't know he was married. That's on him, not you. I was speechless, unsure how to respond to this unexpected kindness from the woman I'd been unknowingly betraying for 9 months. I also want you to know that you're not the first, Victoria continued. There have been others. Always successful, intelligent Black women, always kept secret, always discarded when they start asking for more than he's willing to give. Harrison shifted uncomfortably beside his wife. Victoria, I don't think this is necessary. I think it's very necessary. Victoria's voice was steel wrapped in silk. Kira deserves to know the truth about what she's been involved in. She turned back to me. My husband has a very specific type. He's drawn to Black women, specifically successful Black women, because they represent something forbidden to him, something exciting and dangerous and completely separate from his real life. Victoria, stop, Harrison said sharply. I will not stop. Not anymore. Victoria's composure cracked slightly, showing the anger underneath. Do you know how I found out about you, Kira? I shook my head. I've been having you followed, you and Harrison both, for months. What you're seeing now is nothing compared to what was about to be revealed. You what? Harrison's face went white. Did you really think I was as naive as you needed me to be? Did you really think I didn't notice the late nights, the unexplained absences, the guilt gifts that showed up after every business trip? Victoria opened her purse and pulled out a thick manila envelope. I have photographs, Kira, of you and my husband at restaurants, hotels, his penthouse. I have credit card statements showing gifts he bought you. I have hotel reservations, restaurant receipts, even video surveillance from his building showing you coming and going. She placed the envelope on my desk. I have everything. Harrison looked like he was going to be sick. Victoria, what are you doing? What I should have done years ago. I'm ending this pattern of behavior. Pattern? I found my voice finally. Victoria nodded. You're the fourth, Kira. In 15 years of marriage, you're the fourth successful Black woman my husband has had an extended affair with. The room was spinning. Fourth? First was Alicia, a lawyer at their firm. That lasted 8 months. Then Jasmine, a marketing executive at one of their clients, 14 months. Then Denise, a professor at Northwestern, 6 months. And now you, 9 months. I felt sick. They all ended the same way? Exactly the same way. He love bombs them, makes them feel special and chosen, keeps them hidden from his real life, and then when they start demanding more, when they want to meet his family or be acknowledged publicly, he tells them about his complicated family situation. I stared at Harrison, seeing him clearly for the first time. You never intended to leave your wife. It's not that simple. Yes, it is that simple. Victoria interrupted. He never intended to leave me because our marriage isn't about love. It's about maintaining his image, his social status, his family's legacy. I provide respectability. You provided excitement. Why are you telling me this? I asked Victoria. Because I'm tired of watching him destroy intelligent, accomplished women with his lies, and because I need your help to stop him. But what Kira was about to learn would change everything she thought she knew about the situation. My help? Victoria sat down in the chair across from my desk, her composure returning. Kira, what do you know about Reed and Associates' client base? They're mostly Fortune 500 companies, some government contracts, a few international firms. What about Morrison Industries? I felt a chill run down my spine. Morrison Industries was my biggest account, the clients whose campaign had first brought me to Harrison's attention. What about them?
They're owned by my father. The room went silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. Your father owns Morrison Industries? My father owns Morrison Industries, 3 other companies that Reed and Associates represents, and he sits on the board of 2 more. Roughly 60% of Harrison's revenue comes from companies my family controls.
I looked at Harrison, whose face had gone from white to gray. You knew this. Of course he knew this, Victoria said. How do you think he got those accounts in the first place? Harrison married me for my family's business connections. Reed and Associates was failing when we got married. My father's contracts saved the company. When she read that document, everything would change, and Victoria was about to hand it over. But what does this have to do with me? Victoria smiled, and for the first time, it wasn't kind. Because, my dear, you've been working on my father's accounts for almost a year, which means you have access to all of their proprietary information, their business strategies, their financial data. Victoria, stop, Harrison said desperately. You don't know what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm finally using the leverage I've had all along. Victoria turned back to me. Kara, I want to offer you a choice. You can continue working here, knowing that your boss has been using you both professionally and personally, knowing that he'll probably do this again with another woman in 6 months. Or what? Or you can come work for my father directly. Morrison Industries is starting a new consulting division. They need someone to head it up, someone with your exact qualifications and experience. I felt my heart racing. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you Harrison's job, essentially, running consulting operations for Morrison Industries and all my father's companies. Triple your current salary, full executive benefits, and complete autonomy. Harrison finally found his voice. Victoria, you can't be serious. Oh, I'm very serious. And here's the best part, darling. Since Morrison Industries and the other companies will be moving their consulting in-house, they won't need Reed and Associates anymore. The implications hit Harrison like a physical blow. You're talking about destroying my company. I'm talking about removing my family's companies from yours. What happens to Reed and Associates after that is entirely up to you. What you're seeing now is nothing compared to what Victoria had planned. There's something else, Victoria continued, pulling out another folder. Something I discovered in my investigation that I think you'll find interesting.
She handed me the folder. Inside were employment records, background checks, and what looked like hiring recommendations. What am I looking at? Your hiring file. Take a close look at who recommended you for the position at Reed and Associates. I flipped through the pages until I found the recommendation letters. My stomach dropped when I saw the signature on the most influential one. Victoria Reed recommended me for this job? I did indeed. I've been watching Harrison's pattern for years, and I decided to expedite the process. Harrison looked like he was going to faint. You set this up? I set up the introduction. What happened after that was entirely Harrison being himself. Victoria looked at me apologetically. I'm sorry for manipulating the situation, Kiara, but I needed someone inside the company. Someone Harrison would inevitably target. Someone intelligent enough to see through his lies eventually. You used me as bait. I gave you an opportunity to advance your career and expose a predator at the same time. The job offer is real, regardless of what happens with Harrison. I was trying to process everything. How long have you been planning this? 3 years. Since I caught him with Denise and realized this wasn't going to stop on its own. Harrison finally exploded. This is insane. Victoria, you've destroyed our marriage. You're trying to destroy my company. And now you're trying to turn Kiara against me. I'm not trying to turn anyone against you, Harrison. I'm simply revealing who you really are. When the phone rang, her life would change. And this time, it was Victoria's private investigator. Victoria's phone buzzed, and she answered it immediately. Yes? Perfect. Send everything to my lawyer and to the Tribune. Yes, today. She hung up and turned to us with a satisfied expression. That was my private investigator. He just delivered a very interesting package to the Chicago Tribune's investigative journalism department. What package? Harrison's voice was barely a whisper. Documentation of your affairs, your pattern of targeting Black women employees, your use of company resources for personal relationships, and some very interesting financial irregularities in how you've been billing my father's companies. Financial irregularities? Oh, yes. Turns out you've been padding invoices to Morrison Industries for months, charging for services that were never provided, inflating hours, creating fake consultation fees. My investigator found it all. Harrison slumped into a chair. Victoria, you don't understand what you've done. I understand perfectly. I've ended your ability to manipulate and use women. I've protected my children from having a father they can't respect. And I've given myself the freedom to build a life based on honesty instead of lies. She turned to me. Kiera, you don't have to decide right now, but the offer stands. Come work for Morrison Industries. Help me build something better than what Harrison created here. Right at this point, everything changed for everyone in the room. I looked at the photographs spread across my desk, at the evidence of Harrison's systematic manipulation of women like me, at the job offer that could change my entire career trajectory. I have some conditions, I said finally. Name them, Victoria replied. First, I want a written guarantee that Morrison Industries will never use their business relationships to manipulate or control their employees' personal lives. Done. Second, I want a diversity and inclusion clause in my contract that ensures fair hiring and promotion practices for all employees, regardless of race or background. Absolutely. Third, I want the authority to implement these same standards across all of your father's companies. Victoria smiled. I was hoping you'd ask for that. I turned to Harrison, and I want you to personally apologize to every woman you've done this to, publicly. Kiera, you can't be serious.
I'm completely serious. Alicia, Jasmine, Denise, and anyone else. You're going to acknowledge what you did, take responsibility for the harm you caused, and make financial reparations for the career damage you inflicted. I can't do that. It would ruin me. You ruined yourself, Harrison. This is just the consequences catching up. What you're seeing now is nothing. Victoria was about to deliver the final blow. Victoria stood up and gathered her papers. Harrison, I'm filing for divorce tomorrow morning. I'm requesting full custody of Emma and James, citing your pattern of infidelity and financial impropriety. Victoria, please. I'm also withdrawing all of my family's business from Reed & Associates, effective immediately. You have 30 days to transfer all files and conclude any ongoing projects. Harrison's face crumbled. You're destroying everything I've built. No, Harrison, I'm dismantling something that was built on lies and exploitation. What you choose to build afterward is up to you. She turned to me one final time. Kiera, I'll have the contracts drawn up by tomorrow afternoon. Take the weekend to think about it, but I hope you'll say yes. I will. Victoria smiled, a real smile this time, full of warmth and possibility. Good. I think we're going to build something remarkable together. As Victoria walked toward the door, she paused. Oh, and Harrison, the Tribune article goes live Monday morning. You might want to prepare a statement. Oh, and one more thing. After Victoria left, Harrison and I sat in silence for several long minutes. 9 months, I said finally. What? 9 months you lied to me. 9 months you let me believe we had a future together while knowing you'd never leave your wife. 9 months you let me fall in love with a man who didn't exist. Kira, I do care about you. You care about what I represent. The forbidden fruit, the exotic conquest, the intelligent Black woman who made you feel progressive and adventurous. Harrison didn't deny it. But you never cared about me as a person, because if you had, you would have told me the truth from the beginning. You would have given me the choice to decide whether I wanted to be involved with a married man. You would have said no. Exactly. So you took that choice away from me. You manipulated me into a relationship I never would have consented to if I'd known the truth. I stood up and started packing up my office. I'll have my resignation on your desk Monday morning, along with all the Morrison Industries files, since they won't be your client much longer. Kara, wait. We can work something out. Maybe I can leave Victoria. Maybe we can... No, Harrison. We can't work anything out. Because this was never about love for you. This was about power, control, and your ability to have whatever you wanted without consequences. That's not true. It's completely true. And you know what the saddest part is? I actually did love you. For 9 months, I loved a man who doesn't exist. I loved the version of yourself you created to manipulate me. I picked up my box of personal items and headed for the door. But that man was a lie, and I'm done living in someone else's fantasy. 3 months later, the fallout from Victoria's revelation was reverberating through the Chicago business community. The Chicago Tribune article was devastating, detailing not just Harrison's affairs, but his pattern of targeting Black women employees and his financial improprieties. Reed and Associates lost not just Morrison Industries, but 3 other major clients who didn't want to be associated with the scandal. Harrison was forced to sell the company to pay his legal fees and divorce settlement. Victoria got full custody of their children and half of everything he owned, which turned out to be less than anyone thought it was once the debts and legal judgments were settled. The other women, Alicia, Jasmine, and Denise, all came forward after the article was published. Together, we filed a civil lawsuit against Harrison for workplace harassment and emotional damages. The settlement was enough to cover my student loans and then some. As for me, I took the job at Morrison Industries and never looked back. Within 6 months, I'd built the consulting division into one of the most respected in Chicago. Within a year, I'd implemented diversity and inclusion programs across all of Morrison's companies that became models for other corporations. Victoria and I became genuine friends, bonded by our shared experience of Harrison's manipulation, but building something much stronger and more positive together. She went back to school for her MBA and now runs Morrison's Industries Charitable Foundation. And Harrison, last I heard, he was working for a small firm in Milwaukee, having lost his reputation, his family, his company, and his standing in Chicago's business community. But more importantly, he lost his ability to hurt other women the way he'd hurt us. The biggest lesson I learned from all of this wasn't about men or relationships or even workplace dynamics. It was about the importance of believing in your own worth, regardless of how someone else treats you. Harrison made me doubt myself, made me accept less than I deserved, made me complicit in my own diminishment. But Victoria showed me that I didn't have to accept that treatment, that I had more power than I realized, and that sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be anyone's secret anymore. Remember, your love is not a consolation prize. Your relationship is not a favor someone grants you, and you are never, ever anyone's exotic fantasy or temporary excitement. You deserve to be chosen publicly, proudly, and completely. And if someone can't do that, then they don't deserve you at all. The most powerful thing you can do when someone tries to keep you hidden is to step fully into the light and let everyone see exactly who you are and what you're worth. That's what I did, and that's what changed everything.
And so, this story comes to an end, but the pain it carries is real and lasting. Behind his mask, there may be charm, but also lies, manipulation, and silence. If you've experienced something similar, please don't hesitate to share it in the comments below or send it to us directly. Your story matters, your truth matters, and your voice might be the one that saves someone else from falling into the same trap. Together, we break the silence. Together, we unmask the lies. And together, we rise stronger. Thank you for listening. Share this story. Save a sister. End the fetishization.